tragic scene there. Well, a mother claims that her teenage son was assaulted in Lexington last weekend.
She says no one even tried to help her son or call 911. Now, as WKYT Samantha Valentino shows us, she's asking people to look out for one another in our top story at 5:30.
My son, who was quite bloody, walked all the way home about a couple miles alone and bloody.
Michelle says her 19-year-old son was at a Lexington bar in the early morning hours of April 21st. He's a student at BCTC. Michelle has asked us not to identify him or use her last name.
But he said he tripped and that the bouncer thought that he was probably intoxicated and asked him to leave.
She says the last thing he remembers is walking out of the bar. The next thing he knew, he was on the sidewalk.
He was immediately hit in the back of the head with something. He actually didn't even know what had happened to him until a few days later.
Michelle says nobody helped her son or called 911.
We should be looking after these kids, anyone who's getting hurt, from a visible point of anyone in any city, they should feel, almost obligated to phone the police and get that person medical care.
She says her son managed to walk home, not realizing he was covered in his own blood. That's when she says his roommates realized what happened and took him to UK hospital.
His recovery was mostly from a concussion. He had a number of abdominal contusions as well, some scrapes on both his arms and shoulders from likely being kicked.
A report from the hospital provided by Michelle says that his injuries were consistent with battery. While she's glad her son walked away without any broken bones, Michelle says she's frustrated nobody tried to help him that night. Lexington police say they're investigating the situation. In Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.
Lexington police are asking anyone with information about this case to give them a call or submit an anonymous tip through Bluegrass Crime Stoppers.